Hey guys, I had to wait for the framing process to be done. They're not quite done with it, but they're done enough for me to be able to walk through the house. They don't have any 2x4s or 4x4s supporting the roof. The trusses and all are installed, and I'll go over all that different stuff now since I'm walking through the home with you guys. This is the front of your home. Obviously the garage. I know I talked a little bit, I can't remember if I talked previously about the materials we used before or not, but I'm going to go over them in this video as well. The stuff you see on the outside of this house here looks a lot like a pressed wood, but it's not. This is a material called oriented strand board. Short, or the long version of what most people call it is OSB. We use this material instead of plywood or presswood because presswood isn't a good material to use for homes, but this is actually better than plywood, and I'll explain. Plywood was what was used traditionally before we started using oriented strand board in this market quite a few years ago. Mr. Henry was the first builder to actually use it, and what convinced him to actually use this material instead of plywood is he had a vendor pushing him to use it. And he goes, well, why would I use this material? And number one, the guy said, well, it's less expensive, and that's the first thing he catches his ear. Mr. Henry's always looking for ways to save his buyers money. That's why we're traditionally priced better than any other builder in the area. Mr. Henry's motto is he builds most West Florida's most affordable new homes. On top of that, it's a superior product. What he did to show him that it was better than plywood is he literally cut a chunk of it and stuck it in a bucket and put a lid on it. They came back days later, and it still was the same size that it was before. It wasn't swollen, wasn't chipping, wasn't breaking apart. This material is an engineered material, not like a traditional plywood or traditional presswood. The difference between this and plywood is plywood, I don't know if you're familiar with veneers, but veneers are very thin pieces of wood that are glued together. When you buy store-bought furniture at Walmart that's pressed wood that's got a cover over it, that cover is called a veneer, very thin layer that's almost like paper glued on top of the pressed wood. Plywood is basically those very thin layers glued together, and the problem is over time that glue will give way, and you'll actually start to have where the plywood separates. And because it's glued together, there are air pockets inside of it, which actually will help it break apart faster. And due to the huge humidity that you deal with in this area of the country, the humidity does affect it, and it does allow it to separate a little bit quicker than it would in other places of the country. But that is why we use this material, which once again is called oriented strand board. These are your 2x4s throughout the house here. And when I show you a room, I'm not going to show you a room like this because it's hard for you guys to see. It's almost impossible. But that's why I prefer to take videos over pictures, especially at this stage of construction. I'm going to show you the floor to give you the shape of a room. And then I'll actually go back and take pictures and do the same principle. Mostly what you're going to see is going to be the floor of the room, so you can get an idea of the dimensions, because if I do this, you can't tell how many really rooms there are between here and the exterior wall. The next thing that I want to go over with you guys here is called the borat treatment that you see sprayed on the wood here. Once again, Mr. Henry was the first builder in this area to use this practice, and now every builder in the area uses it. What this is an oil-based treatment that soaks into the wood. Traditionally, when they did a termite treatment for a house, what they would do is they would schedule a time for the pest control company to come out and spray the ground, and then have the concrete guys come out and pour their concrete on top of that. The problem is it was very toxic for the earth. It was not a good material to be sprayed directly on the ground. You had to worry about different issues that you could have from runoff and so forth and whatnot by that material, because it wasn't a very clean material. This is a very green material. It doesn't affect anybody in any way, shape, or form. It only hurts termites and other insects, other wood-boring organisms. Second principle is, the problem with spraying the ground and then pouring your concrete is if your pest control guy wasn't literally finished and then immediately had the concrete guys come out and pour the concrete on top of it, say they're a couple hours behind or the next morning, the problem you would then deal with is the liquid that they sprayed on the ground could evaporate, and you would have less treatment on the ground before the foundation's poured. This is a material that cannot evaporate. It soaks straight into the wood. As soon as a termite or another wood-eating organism actually bites into it, they die instantly. So when you have the workers of the termite that actually go out and find it, almost like the worker bees, they go out and find a material for the colony to feast on, they're dead before they can get back to the colony, therefore the colony can't find where the wood happens to be. But it actually was developed by a gentleman by the name of Brian Killingsworth, who's based out of Pensacola, Florida. He developed it and pitched it to Mr. Henry, and we've been using it since. And like I said, every other builder that I've been in, their homes, they use this same type of material, and it's called a borat treatment. B-O-R-A-T-E. So that's why we use that particular type of treatment around the home. Walking in, I don't know off the top of my head the floor plan that you guys are building, but by looking at it, it looks like you're building, let me see what we got here. Should be either a formal dining room or den study. This is going to be your den study here on the right when you walk in. You've got a formal dining room here on the left, which is going to open up into your kitchen. So this actually looks like a 2554 Kirkstone, which it is. So, nope, I take that back. I don't have to go back and look at the master here in a minute and find out exactly what you're building. Anyway, sorry. Walking through, this is your kitchen. This is where your sink and vanity and your dishwasher will be located. Sorry. You've got a pantry located here. This looks like a 2680 Sheffield. Sorry, this is a 2680 Sheffield. I may be corrected again. Anyway, let me finish walking through the plan and I can then tell what floor plan it is. This is your family room. Walk back into what traditionally looks like this should be your sunroom here. Man, I am so lost in this plan. Yeah, this is a 2680 Sheffield because you've got a bedroom back here. It's supposed to be a bathroom here. Toilet, shower connections, your sink. You've got a bedroom here. And we've got a black wrapper on the window. I'll come back and go over that window here in a minute. And you've got a closet located here. Sorry, I'm a little thrown off because I didn't knock out where the entrances are. They haven't finished cutting out the baseboards, the base of the boards to show the. It looks like you moved the master entrance to the back side of the sunroom here, and then this would be your master suite here with the tray ceilings. We've got your corner tub or garden tub, which will be located here. You'll have your double vanities, closet. This is where your toilet will be located, your shower will be located, and then your water closet. And you've got one walk-in closet here and another one located here, so this is the 2680 Sheffield. Looks like you put a rear covered porch off the back of the master suite, which is a nice addition here. Then connected to that, you'll have access to the Florida room you added, which will also access the family room. This is your patio port here, and then this is your backyard. Excuse me. Okay. I'm going to go over a couple more materials as we walk through the house here. This is a black wrap that we use around the base of the window. We're the only builder I've ever seen where we do a 4-way seal on the window. Most builders do a 3-way seal. We do a 4-way seal. We do this black wrap, which will also be the base of the house when they put the brick in, and I'll go over and explain all of that to you as well. This black wrap hangs over the edge. Then we have a dowel wrap that actually goes on the outside of the oriented strand board. It's a plastic wrap. It's called a dowel wrap, and that's to help keep moisture off the wood. And then they also come back after they're done with that when they install the window, and they do a tar. It's an aluminum tape that is made out of tar. So you've got a tar seal around the window as well. And then on top of that, once we put the bricks in, we'll actually install a silicone sealant like a caulk around the outside of the window. So there's 4 different seals on the window. Most other builders don't use this particular seal as well. Usually all they do is the tape, and the caulk, as well as the dowel wrap, but they don't do the additional seal that we do here. Walking back through the house, I'm going to go show you other rooms, and then I'm going to go over a couple more materials we use. We use engineered trusses in the roof. You can see they've got plates that are stamped on them. The reason we do that is, number one, it's more cost effective. Another cost saving measure we can do to pass on to you as the buyer. And number two, they're more precise. It allows us to build the house a lot quicker. We can frame the house in about a week versus if we were to doing a stick built where they brought out 2x4s and had guys sitting on top of the roof cutting boards and measuring them out. You'd be looking 2 to 3 weeks in just the framing process alone for the roof. So we can build a house faster, number one. We save materials because we're not measuring and cutting and throwing away extra wood. We're actually getting these shipped to us directly, already made from the supplier. This is a bathroom you're looking at here with your toilet, shower, and your vanity location will be located here. And you'll have what looks like a little linen closet located here. And this was another bedroom, sorry, that I didn't go over while I was walking through. But that's why we use engineered trusses. On top of that, we do a couple other steps in our engineered trusses I'll go over here in a minute. You've got a bedroom here, and then you've got a closet located there. Okay. code for the state of Florida and all the counties that we build in is that you're supposed to use a number 2 or better truss. I'm going to see if I can get closer to one that'll be easier to read. Okay. Oh, that's not a good one there either to read. Let's see. We use the number 1 or better, which is the strongest type of wood you can use to support the roof. We use that on the top of the truss. Like I said, the only code is that they require that you do a 2 or better, and we do number 1 or better, which is above code. I don't know any other builders that do that. And number 2, we use different materials than some other builders. Number 1, we use a southern yellow pine on the roofs. We use that because it's a very strong material to use for the trusses, but we don't use the same material on the walls, and I'm going to go over why we do it that way. Here, you can see there it says T1 to show you it's the number 1 or better wood for the trusses on the top. We use a spruce pine on the walls. The reason we do that is southern yellow pine has a tendency due to heat to warp or bend, which is not a problem. It won't affect your roof line. It won't affect the structural integrity of your roof at all. But if you do put it in a wall, you'll see big bows in your wall wherever the wood happens to warp or actually bend. Spruce pine isn't quite as strong as southern yellow pine, but still sturdy enough to use for your 2x4s in your walls, and it has less of a propensity to warp. I've never seen a house where we had an issue where they warp, but it is not impossible, so don't call me and say it's impossible for it to happen, because it can. Nothing in the world is impossible. But that's the reason why we use certain materials. We use the spruce pine on the walls and southern yellow pine on the roofs because of the type of materials they are. They're better suited for those particular instances. This is actually the dowel wrap here that'll go on the outside of your house. It's a plastic white wrap. It wraps around, and I'll show you in the next video and talk about it. And they actually use the nails that are in that bucket to put it on the house. Here's your tub and shower, looks like, for the master, which they haven't installed yet, obviously. They're going to need to do your insulation before they can do that, and we'll have to have an insulation inspection as well before we can install them. So that's why they're sitting outside waiting on that. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate at any point to ask. And I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend.